Hey folks, welcome back to your Salmon River in Pulaski, New York. I'm Randy Jones with over 30 years of experience as a full-time professional fishing guide. In this complimentary video, I hope it'll help you to catch more fish. Folks, whether it's one, a temporary transitional resting spot, which is where the fish stops at temporarily while in a transitional mode while running the river, two, a prime transitional resting area, which is where the fish stops to rest midday, or three, a prime holding location, which is where the fish holds for an extended period of time, days, a month, and for steelhead and brown trout, all fall, winter, and into the spring, they all have one main and critically important thing in common. They are all current breaks. A current break is a structural change of water speed in the river. The number one determining factor in the length of time any fish will hold on these current breaks is the quality of the current break. Because all fish in the Salmon River use these current breaks to conserve energy and rest, then so should you when you're fishing up here. Let's expand on these current breaks a little further. Today's video is on temporary transitional resting current breaks that all species of fish use for a very short amount of time while running up or down the Salmon River. The fish normally use the deepest water in the river and the current to navigate it. It's like a road map and rarely changes. By studying fish movement up the river, it'll also provide you with a detailed road map of your optional fishing locations and fishing strategies. So any current break that is on this path is normally used by the fish. Whenever we have fish that are in a transitional stage running the Salmon River, then these locations should always be fished by you. These special current breaks are used in the exact same way by the fish as you or I would when climbing a long steep mountain, 500 flights of stairs, or dragging 3 big king salmon on a stringer weighing 75 pounds up a hill or up a flight of stairs after a long rewarding day of fishing. We would take short little breaks along our route, which is exactly what our Salmon River fish do when running it. A prime example of this would be any long stretch of rapids. These are like climbing a long flight of stairs to the fish, stopping behind the boulders in the pockets to rest until they've decided to continue on to the next pocket. They can sit in these pockets for a few seconds to a few minutes, depending on how much energy they had just used to get there. Here's a short video I just made showing a nice long stretch of rapids. Remember what I said earlier about the quality of the current break determines the length of time a fish will hold on it? These temporary transitional resting spots do not provide a good enough current break for them to hold on it for an extended period of time. So they're just used while steadily transitioning up the river. Typically, these areas are fished during low light periods, mornings and evenings, when the fish feel safe and we have fish running up the river. Or all day if we have low light, rainy, stormy weather, or the water level in the river has come up. Once your run is ended, then your next strategy would be to fish the prime transitional resting and holding areas where the fish will rest midday, or the prime holding locations where they will sit for an extended period of time. These locations will be covered more thoroughly in our next videos, so check them out. Other prime examples of resting current breaks that the fish will use while transitioning up the river are the head of the hole, the seams on either side of the main flow into the holes. That's where the fast water meets the slow water, or what we call the frog water. Any big boulders or large rocks in the hole, the deepest part of the hole, the tail of the hole, the seam on the inside bend of the river, behind a shallow area that breaks the current, any big rocks or boulders that are in the deepest part of the river that the fish use to navigate it, a little 4 to 6 inch drop in the river's bottom, or also trees that have fallen into the river that are creating a seam. To simplify all this, the fish use all the current breaks in the river, but probably 90% of the river they simply just swim through it and don't stop. These areas should be avoided like the plague. As Lou Tabery once said, there's a lot of empty water out there. The fun part about some of these current breaks is some are not visible to the naked eye and can only be found by spending a lot of time on the water, have an experienced friend show them to you, float over them in some type of watercraft, find them when you bump into them on your drift while you're fishing, walk around the river, or finally hire a guide. I always enjoy explaining in great detail the current breaks and habitat on the river to all of my guests. In closing, what makes all current breaks so interesting and challenging to understand as an angler is some current breaks are only used by the fish while in a transitional stage while running up or down the river, some for only a few seconds, minutes, to all day. Some current breaks are used for several days, an entire month, up to 5 or 6 months. Some current breaks are only used in the fall before the water temperature drops. Some current breaks are only used during the winter time after the water temperature has dropped. And finally, some current breaks are only used during the fall for salmon, November for brown trout, and spring for steelhead. So some current breaks are only used during certain stages of the fish's life. What's critically important also is some current breaks are only used during certain water flow levels. Low, medium, and high water changes the current breaks that the fish key in on and use. Our water levels are always changing and the fish change along with it, and so should you. Folks, what makes an experienced steelhead or salmon angler on the Salmon River? One of the most critically important things to have is a complete and thorough understanding of all its current breaks and when and how the fish use them. This knowledge will definitely put you into the 10% of the anglers that catch 90% of the fish here on the Salmon River. Folks, I sincerely hope this video helps you to better understand these productive fishing current breaks on the Salmon River and helps you to catch more fish. May all your doorknobs smell of big salmon, steelhead, and brown trout. Thanks for stopping in, folks, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We have a lot more tutorials coming your way. Also, check out my superb Salmon River, New York fishing reports at yankeeangler.com.
Bet you're going fishing all of the time, baby going fishing too. Bet your life, your sweet wife will catch more fish than you.